So the Apple iPhone 13 Pro is probably the cheapest 120 hertz iPhone you can buy right now. But does it perform better than the latest iPhone 15? Because you could actually get this for less money. And it's around the same size as the iPhone 15 and has an extra camera. Let's go ahead and boot them up and see in 3, 2, 1 and see which one can get there first. Now, keep in mind, because Apple stick with the A15 Bionic in the 14 and they just now went to the A16, which wasn't a major leap, these should be quite close in performance here. In this video, we are testing them on 17.4.1 and we do have 6 gigabytes of RAM on both phones here. And my 13 Pro is a little dark right now, but you did see that they booted up at about the same time. So I'm expecting similar performance here. So this is a pretty close call in terms of the performance because of the chipset is not that different. So when it comes to Face ID, we do have the dynamic island Face ID here, and we do have what looks to be like thinner bezels, but also I noticed that it just looks a little choppier with the 60 hertz unlocking. It's just the animation is what I'm talking about. Over here, it looks a little smoother when it goes in. So I definitely prefer the 13 Pro in this aspect, as it just feels more buttery when you are going. Look at the animation. It's really nice there on the iPhone 13 Pro. So I would say it feels nicer here, but in terms of speed, not a big difference there. We are running the latest 17.4, so let me go ahead and confirm that for you. iOS 17.4 there, and then over here, just to confirm, iOS 17.4. So you know this test is fair, and that I didn't skip the update. So you can see 17.4.1. So iOS is pretty smooth, even on the 60 hertz iPhone 15. Not that bad overall. It looks pretty good, and it stays consistent. However, it's kind of weird using a phone that costs more in 2024 than a phone from a couple years ago that now costs less. And the phone from a couple years ago feels smoother. It's just a little weird feeling. I think they need to bring 120 hertz to the base model. For sure, just because even now an older, cheaper iPhone is a smoother feel. It just doesn't make sense. We should see the newer base models feel as good as like the older flagships. But that's not the case just yet. The iPhone 15 Pro has the 120 hertz, but the 13 Pro does as well. And you could see a little bit smoother and snappier day to day for sure on the general home screen. All right, so overall, there hasn't been any real wins to the iPhone 15 yet. Being the new phone, I expect some. So far, nothing. You can see swiping out. The animation's kind of similar. Let's go into App Store. And I think there was a hair to the iPhone 15, but nothing big. That notch is pretty noticeable now, though. I'm not going to lie, versus the dynamic island. We're kind of going through submenus. You can see 15 loads a little faster there. Let's go into, I don't like TikTok. Let's go into YouTube. You'll see pretty similar. Ooh, that animation, if you go back and just look, the way that looked on the 15 was choppy. Let's go into Groupon. No one cares about animations. I do. I paid more money for my 15 right now than this phone is worth on the 13 Pro, so I care. I'm a tech fan. Are you? Let's go into Instagram. And even if you're not like a tech fan, don't you think that they should still bring it to the base model? Let me know down below. Let's go into Amazon. You could see pretty much the same. Again, these CPUs are very close in performance. So, ooh, look at that. Wow. That looks like it loaded at the exact same time. So about out here, let's go into eBay. And you can see faster on the iPhone 13 Pro. Man, if you have a 13 Pro, keep it. It's a great phone. Let's go into Best Buy right here, at least for now. Faster there on the 13 Pro. Computers and tablets. You're getting basically no upgrade here to go to the 15, besides the dynamic island if you really want that. Starbucks. Let's go into Jetpack. Let's see what happens here. Is the games going to shut me up? Because usually the games is what shuts me up. A little faster there on the iPhone 15. Set up out of there. We're going to Subway Surf. And you'll see a little faster there on the 15. Okay, so that A16 pulling ahead by a very slight margin on the iPhone 15. So what that'll mean, I think, is maybe in the super long term, you might have slightly better performance as iOSs get updated. But keep in mind, we have a smoother refresh here, so that might balance it out. So I think in terms of longevity, these aren't going to be that much different, even though the 13 Pro is a couple years back. And that's the con of Apple no longer giving you the latest chip on their base model. They used to do that, but now they're giving you a year-old chip. So you can just get a year-old Pro and have a better phone. It's weird. Let's go into Play here, and you'll see. But see, most people are going to overlook that because they want the latest and greatest. They want to flex, I got the latest and greatest, even though you have worse specs than somebody who had a phone. Okay, the iPhone 15 said, I'm going to slide up out of here. I'm tired of you talking about me today. It was sliding up all up out of the place. So let's go ahead and go into Free Fire. And we'll see what happens here. Again, this is not too hard to load for pretty much any phone, but we'll just see which one can do it first. And that was on the left. So gaming's pulling ahead on the 15, that's for sure. But then you're going to game at 60 hertz. So which one do you want? PUBG Mobile. And I know it seems like I keep beating that broken record player there, you know, like a broken record player, but it is what it is. It's something that I want to see upgraded. And once that happens, there's not going to be a huge reason to get a used Pro once the bases get the 120 hertz displays, the LTPO displays. Once they get those, which they should already be getting this year, I really hope they do that. Probably not, though. That's going to change the game for the base models. Let's go into 3D Mark. You could see about the same. Geekbench, faster on the right. So certain apps will still be faster on the 13 Pro just because the 13 Pro has an upgraded, it just has an upgraded, you know, kind of like update sometimes because the 15 is newer, so some developer haven't actually got it updated yet on the iPhone 15 to support the latest chip, even though it's been out a while. It's still, some apps are still behind. So overall, I would say the game's pulled ahead slightly, but the overall performance on the 13 Pro impresses me still. Pretty much identical there in most apps, and I mean literally identical, exact to be exact, on most of these apps. All right, so let's see how it does on the RAM management. Now this has 6 gigs of RAM, just like the iPhone 13 Pro, so it should be basically identical here. So far, it's looking fantastic for the iPhone 15. We shouldn't get any reloads, and this was a big jump. If you had like a 13, you now have 6 gigs of RAM. It makes the 15 feel snappier and will remain snappier for the longer term. It looks like we were reloading some content in the App Store. But overall, basically flawless there on the 15, besides the fact that it looks a little choppier on the animation. Other than that, pretty good. With the same 6 gigs of RAM, but a year older CPU, how does the iPhone 13 Pro? And man, I wish you guys could see these differences in person. If you haven't already, it's so obvious, like how much better the LTPO display looks, or the ProMotion display looks. It just looks so much better here. And essentially nothing on the reload here either. Just checking, it looked like Amazon was popping back to this was the same thing as the 15. Exactly even on RAM management, same money, exactly even. All right, so we're gonna run the Geekbench. You can see the A16 is clocked in at 3.44 gigahertz with 3.23 gigahertz clock speed on the iPhone 13 Pro with the A15 Bionic. So let me go ahead and hit the run CPU benchmark, and we'll see if that extra boost in clock speed will give the 15 the advantage. I'll be back. And the iPhone 15 actually finished this test first and wins out, but just by a little bit on the single core and a little bit on the multi-core, not even 1,000 points better on its multi-core score. Let's see what they benchmark for regularly, and you'll see that the iPhone 13 Pro definitely not benching as high as the iPhone 15, which benches a little higher than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So according to the benchmark, it is a little bit faster. Let's go ahead now and run a 3D Mark test. You'll see 3D Mark Extreme. This is a 1-minute test to test the graphical performance, and we'll be looking at the frame rates to see which one will kind of give you a little bit of a smoother performance when in your gaming. And here are our final results, and something interesting to note, an 18.1 or 3 FPS there for the 15 and a 17.3. So that is very, very close. And this one scores better than 70% devices and 65 on the 13 Pro. So what you're going to get is a hair better performance in gaming. But I think the difference with how smooth it feels with the 120 hertz refresh will make the 13 Pro kind of balance that out. So these are basically neck and neck when it comes to the gaming performance overall. So, but definitely can notice thicker bezels here. I don't know if you see that versus the iPhone 15. So let's see if the iPhone 15 can pull in a little bit better Wi-Fi speeds over there. We'll start with that one, and then I'll make sure this is on the same net server before we go ahead and run the iPhone 13 Pro. You can see we're coming near 500 on the down. I wonder if the 13 Pro will beat this. I don't know. We'll see. We're at about 23. We always get around the same here in my tests. So we're going to go ahead and run the iPhone 13 Pro in just a second here, 23.1. So it doesn't have to beat that much. It just has to beat that 479. And it's doing so far. Now it's dropping. Now it's dropping down further. Nope, it looks like the 15 is going to pull in better download speeds than the iPhone 13 Pro, which would make sense. You would think they upgrade this type of stuff, connectivity and things like that. You would think they would do that. And we're going to finish at near the same upload. Not quite, slightly better once again on the 15. So this whole entire theme of this video has basically been slightly better. Even when in iMovie, we don't even need to render. You're going to get a similar performance. It is going to be based on which app is more optimized. Probably the 13 Pro might do that quicker just because it has, been updated a little bit longer. So last thing we're going to do is pop the cameras open just to see which one can do that quicker. Well, I accidentally tapped the iPhone 13 Pro. That's not fair. Let's go ahead and do that again. 3, 2, go. Looks like the 13 Pro. We'll do it again. And we'll do it again. Not a major difference whatsoever. Yeah, about the same. So that refresh is not really making a difference here. Shutter speed identical. Going through the lenses. I'm not sure if you're seeing this. I see a little more of a chop there when going to the ultra wide on the base Model 15. As we transition to the ultra wide there on the 13 Pro, I don't see it, but you see it's kind of like a little flash or something right there. So a little smoother on the camera transition on the 13 Pro. Wrapping things up here in the speed test. Which should you buy in the basis of performance in pretty much every area? In daily usage, if you love the iPhone 15, the looks and all that, this will be enough for you. It really will. It's really comfortable. I prefer it in the hand to the iPhone 13 Pro. It feels so much nicer and smoother with the back infused glass. I prefer the 15. But if you want promotion, you want it at a reduced price, you want it even cheaper than the 15, you can get yourself a 13 Pro with arguably fancier stainless steel edges, nicer colors for some people, not everyone, but for some. And you're going to get yourself nearly the exact same chip performance on the iPhone 13 Pro with arguably better camera for certain scenarios. So overall, they're pretty tight. This was a pretty close comparison. And really, they kind of offer different traits. But you can't go wrong either way here. If you have a 13 Pro, I'd just keep it, honestly, until the next iPhone comes out. But the 15 is a more comfortable, practical day-to-day phone just for its size and comfort. But definitely, you got to deal with that 60 hertz if that bothers you. If it doesn't, then you could just ignore everything I was saying about that. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well. Catch you on the next episode. Peace.